Welcome to this explainer. Today we are shining a spotlight into a deeply hidden, highly secretive world. Right now, across the United States and dotted all over the globe, there is a massive, multi-billion-dollar industry quietly booming right beneath our feet. Literally, we're talking about sprawling underground fortresses, fully self-sufficient survival compounds, and state-of-the-art private security systems being snapped up by the ultra-wealthy. And I know it sounds like a movie plot, but this isn't science fiction. It's a very real, rapidly growing phenomenon. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's explore exactly what is driving the global elite to build these modern-day fortresses.
Okay, let's just cut right to the chase and ask the core question behind this entire doomsday industry. Why? Why are some of the world's absolute richest individuals, people who seemingly have access to anything and everything, quietly preparing for worst-case scenarios? What on earth are they anticipating that requires this level of extreme underground preparation?
Well, looking at our sources, the answer basically boils down to a profound sense of global instability. A lot of wealthy investors and industry leaders look at the modern world and, frankly, they see immense fragility. They're trying to brace for a whole range of catastrophic events. We're talking severe economic crises that could totally upend global markets, unprecedented disruptions triggered by artificial intelligence, devastating cyber warfare, global conflicts between major powers, and, naturally, future pandemics. For billionaires with practically unlimited resources, extreme preparedness has essentially become a very tangible, highly advanced form of insurance against an incredibly unpredictable decade ahead.
Now, when I say bunker, you're probably picturing those cramped, damp, concrete Cold War bomb shelters, right? Yeah, totally scratch that. Today's specialized survival companies are building something entirely different. Think less bomb shelter and more underground five-star hotel. The whole paradigm has shifted away from merely surviving a disaster to actually maintaining a spacious, comfortable, luxury lifestyle straight through a global crisis.
Inside these modern luxury bunkers, absolute self-reliance is the ultimate goal. I mean, we're talking private cinemas, fully decked out gyms, literally underground bowling alleys. But on a more practical level, they feature advanced hydroponic farms for sustainable food, top-tier water purification, and AI-controlled security systems, which are sometimes even backed by armed protection teams. And there's this absolutely fascinating focus on mental well-being too. Some of these compounds utilize advanced artificial sunlight systems that perfectly mimic the daily cycle of dawn to dusk. It's specifically designed to reduce the psychological stress of living underground. The whole point is complete autonomous comfort.
As you might guess, achieving this level of luxurious autonomy definitely does not come cheap. Some of these underground compounds reportedly cost tens of millions of dollars just to construct and outfit. Money is essentially no object here. From converting old, decommissioned missile silos deep underground to building sprawling, hidden facilities right beneath private mega estates, the sheer amount of capital flowing into this industry is absolutely staggering.
But what all that massive investment really buys them is time, and a lot of it. These cutting-edge shelters aren't just stocked for a long weekend or a bad storm. They are meticulously designed and supplied to support people completely isolated from the outside world for months or even years without ever needing outside contact or resupply. It is the ultimate long-term isolation strategy. But okay, let's peel back a layer here and look at the psychology. Beyond the initial disaster itself, whether that's a cyber attack or a massive economic crash, why are billionaires so intensely fearful of a complete breakdown of social order? Why is the specific fear of social collapse in our major cities driving so much of this bunker-building frenzy?
Because experts point out that history paints a pretty clear, repetitive picture. Specific triggers like severe food and supply shortages, sudden financial crashes, runaway inflation, and heavy political instability can cause social order to break down incredibly quickly. When public anger and desperation start to rise, the whole dynamic changes. Because of this, billionaires are reportedly spending a lot of time strategizing on exactly how to secure their properties and maintain private security forces during extended, long-term disruptions.
And man, this brings us to the absolute core controversy of this whole thing. This trend has sparked some intense debate. Critics argue that these actions reflect a really profound loss of faith in our public institutions. The argument goes that rather than using their immense wealth to fund community solutions or strengthen public infrastructure or actually solve these global problems, the ultra-rich are just choosing escapism. They're quietly building a private safety net and essentially leaving the rest of society to fend for itself.
Now, we really have to look at who exactly is buying up these subterranean palaces. A huge chunk of reports point directly to technology billionaires. And why is that?
Well, tech leaders have a unique, front-row seat to exactly how rapidly our world is changing. They acutely understand the extreme fragility of our digital systems. They know precisely how vulnerable our power grids, banking systems, communication networks, and supply chains really are. Because in a lot of cases, they're the actual people building the infrastructure of the future.
And a huge piece of that future is artificial intelligence. Honestly, it's incredibly telling that some of the very researchers and tech leaders developing AI right now are among those most intensely fearful of its potential consequences. They're actively warning of massive job disruption that could create unprecedented inequality. The wild spread of deep misinformation, the rise of autonomous weapons, and the creation of complex systems that humans might ultimately struggle to control. Having that insider knowledge severely intensifies their fears about future social tension.
So all of this naturally begs a pretty personal question for you and me. If the global elite, the people with access to the absolute best data and forecast in the world, are panicking and retreating underground, does that mean ordinary citizens should also expect the worst? Should the rest of us be hitting the panic button right now?
The short answer? No. But the contrast in how the two worlds prepare is honestly pretty mind-blowing. On one side, you have this multi-million-dollar elite escapism, underground fortresses, AI security, and private armies. On the flip side, you have everyday resilience, ordinary citizens preparing for challenges by stocking up on water supplies, maybe securing some backup power, organizing an emergency food kit, and just building up financial savings. The core challenges we face might be similar, but the practical, everyday responses are miles apart.
At the end of the day, you absolutely do not need a bunker to be resilient. Experts actually strongly recommend basic preparedness for things like natural disasters, unexpected infrastructure hiccups, or cyber attacks. Having medical kits on hand, practicing good digital security awareness, and just having a sensible emergency plan for your family is highly encouraged. The real takeaway here is to stay informed and logically prepared for disruptions without succumbing to the extreme, overwhelming panic that's driving all this fortress building at the very top.
So bringing it all together, the big takeaway from our explainer today is what this booming industry represents at its absolute core. It shows us that despite having literally unlimited financial resources, even the wealthiest people on the planet are experiencing some profound anxiety. They are deeply, deeply uncertain about our fast-changing, technologically dangerous world. Their wealth simply cannot buy them certainty anymore, so they're trying to buy absolute isolation instead.
As we wrap up this exploration into the underground fortresses of the elite, I really want to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. Look at the sheer scale of this preparation. Are these bunkers simply incredibly expensive insurance policies bought by people who just have way too much money? Or do these billionaires, with their vast networks and their insider technological knowledge, know something the rest of the world doesn't? Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep questioning the trends shaping our future.